Hello, all you beautiful souls. Jules here, and happy Tuesday, now Wednesday AM. And I wanted to pop on to switch it up today or tonight and talk a little about some folklore, particularly Krampus. Do you guys like my shirt? So there's a lot of mythology surrounding the origins of Krampus, but I just wanted to talk about him and his minions. And so does Gemini, huh? Yeah. So I'll show you some photos while we talk about Krampus. It is German and is an honored and horned anthropomorphic figure who in the central and eastern Alpine folklore tradition is said to accompany Saint Nicholas. He visits the children during the night of December, Krampusnacht. I'll spell that right here for you. And it is known as Krampus night, and it is immediately before the feast of Saint Nicholas on December 6th. It is the tradition that rewards the well-behaved children with small gifts, while Krampus punishes the badly behaved ones with birch rods. And this was a story to teach their children to be good. So I don't know if you remember growing up, hearing the Christmas song, You Better Not Shout, You Better Not Pout, that song. And my mom would tell me that because if I wasn't good, I wasn't getting any presents. So I made sure to help around the house because I knew Santa was watching. But I was never told about Krampus. And funny thing is, I did grow up in a household where my brother and I really loved to watch horror movies, and so did my dad. So we were into the Freddy Kruegers, the Jasons, the Michael Myers. Scream came out, and that was like a big thing. My brother actually worked at the movie theaters at the time, and he took me to see Scream, and it was like opening night, so he had already watched it, so he knew all the scary scenes, and he would like make me jump. It was so scary. Like, I was literally, the scariest movie I had saw up into my lifetime was Scream. It's sad to say that because it's not really scary anymore, but I kid you not, I watched that movie on repeat for probably like years because I loved it so much. All right, Krampus. Let's take some look-skis at him and we'll talk about him. So the origin of the figure is unclear. Some folklorists and anthropologists have postulated that it may have pre-Christian origins, although historians generally consider this unlikely as it's not attested until the 16th century. In certain traditional parades and events of the Krampuslauf, which is the Krampus run, some of the young men dress up as Krampus and they attempt to scare the audience with their antics. So Krampus is featured on holiday greeting cards called Krampuskarten. And you'll see he's carrying chains, he's got his birch rods ready, and he has some fruit, and the poor little kid in front of him, he's ready to eat. So what he would do is he would wait to see if Saint Nick would let him know if the kid was bad or not. And if he was bad, he could have him, but if he couldn't, the kid would get presents. So Saint Nicholas Festival incorporates the cultural elements in Europe, and St. Nicholas himself became popular in Germany around the 11th century. The feast dedicated to St. Nicholas, to this patron of children, is the only winter occasion in which children are the objects of special attentions. and it's the Feast of the Holy Innocents and New Year's Day. Masked devils acting boisterously, making nuances of themselves, are known in Germany since at least the 16th century. So here you can see Krampus, and it looks like he's with the Pope, because that's definitely the Pope's hat. But it is apparently also Saint Nick. And Krampus is usually featured as a man with horns, one grotesque human foot, and 1 foot of a goat. He's typically covered in black hair and has very long snake or dragon-like tongue. And these qualities have increasingly made Krampus a character for horror costumes and films alike. And in the 17th century, Krampus was paired with St. Nicholas as a helper, because St. Nicholas is a saint, and it wasn't logical or deemed saintly behavior for Nicholas to deliver punishment. Therefore, Krampus, his helper, was assigned. And in the aftermath of 1932 election in Austria, the Krampus tradition was prohibited by the Dollfuss regime under the clerical fascist Fatherland Front. Here's another photo of Krampus stuffing the children in his sack to take with him. Although Krampus appears in many variations, most share some common physical characteristics. He's hairy, he's horned, he's usually brown or black, and has 1 foot with cloven hooves of a goat. His long pointed tongue lolls out, and he has fangs. He also carries chains thought to symbolize the binding of the devil by the Christian church. He thrashes the chains for dramatic effect. And the chains are sometimes accompanied with bells of various sizes. And Krampus will carry a bundle of birch branches, which usually he occasionally swats the children with. And the birch branches are replaced with a whip in some representations. On the eve before St. Nicholas Day, which is December 6th, Krampus travels together with St. Nicholas with a sack or a basket strapped to his back. And this is to cart off evil children for drowning, eating, or to transport them to hell. Some of the older versions make mention of naughty children being put in the bag and taken away. This quality can be found in other depictions of St. Nicholas, such as Zwart Piet. So the Feast of St. Nicholas is celebrated in parts of Europe on December 6th, and on the preceding evening of the 5th December, Krampus night or Krampusnacht, the wicked hairy devil appears on the streets, sometimes accompanying St. Nicholas and sometimes on his own. He visits homes and businesses, and the saint usually appears in the Eastern Rite vestments of a bishop. As we saw in the previous photos, he carries a golden ceremonial staff, just like we saw as well. And unlike North American versions of Santa Claus, in these celebrations, St. Nicholas concerns himself only with the good children, while Krampus is responsible for the bad. And St. Nicholas will dispense gifts while Krampus supplies coal and the ruts. So there were already established pagan traditions in the Alpine regions that became intertwined with Catholicism. So people would masquerade around as devilish figures known as perched, which are two-legged humanoid goat with giraffe-like neck, wearing animal furs. People wore costumes and marched in processions known as Perchenlaufen, which are regarded as an earlier form of Krampus runs. They were looked at with suspicion by the Catholic Church and banned by some civil authorities. In many parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina in Croatia, Krampus is described as a devil wearing a cloak, sack around his waist, as seen here, and chains around his neck, ankles, and wrists. As part of the tradition, when a child receives a gift from St. Nicholas, He is given a golden branch to represent his good deeds throughout the year. However, if the child has misbehaved, Krampus will take the gifts for himself and leave only a silver branch to represent the child's bad acts. So Krampus has been modified for various North American media. As you can see here, this Krampus Unleashed movie. I think I remember watching a Krampus Christmas story, like some horror Christmas movie a while back as well. But there are many Krampus comic book series, and you can find books alike, animated tales, but the best are the stories carried down from tradition to tradition, teaching about who Krampus was and how he came about, because there is just so much myth and lore. But he essentially originated in Austria, German origins, and he would take the kids and eat them. So usually on Christmas night, the night before Christmas, the children would leave out a bowl of porridge. And if Krampus, and long before it was called Perchta, and Perchta had its perched ends, they would either drink the porridge if they liked it, and if they didn't, that was a bad sign, and you would probably want to get out of that house if you're a kid before you get eaten. So that is it for tonight, my loves. If you don't have yourself a Krampus shirt, get yourself one, because I have two and I love them. Much love and light. Jules.